Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm delighted that you've joined us today for Freshworks LinkedIn Live. We have a great panel discussion set up for today, which will be focusing on the impact of technology in higher education. We'll focus on how you can transform your customer experience for university or institutions by using Freshworks solutions. Joining us today are representatives from two prestigious UK institutions, Brunel University London and the University of Aberdeen. Welcome, Sonja and Iain.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. All right, let's start off this session with a quick overview of Freshworks. So for those of you that don't know us, we're a SaaS company delivering AI-powered employee and customer service solutions. Our goal is to make it easy for businesses and their employees to increase efficiency and productivity by using our platform. The solution you'll hear about today is called Fresh Service, and this is a modern and intuitive IT service management tool. It is focused on helping businesses to streamline processes across departments. And by using Fresh Service, organizations can create a unified experience and achieve much faster resolutions. So let's get into it. Sonja, Iain, maybe you can introduce yourself and please tell us a little bit about your institution.
Thank you, Fred. Hi, I'm Sonja Browning-Page. I'm the Chief Digital Information Officer at Brunel University. Brunel University is one of the leading higher education and research institutions in the UK and in fact in Europe. We have about 2,500 members of staff and around 18,000 students. We're a very international university, so about 50% of our students are from outside of the EU and the UK.
Thank you, Sonja.
And hi, I'm Iain Cameron, User Services Manager at the University of Aberdeen up in the northeast of Scotland. We have around about 20,000 students in total, around about 3,000 staff, and like Sonja, a great deal of our students come from around the globe. Delighted to say that recently we were voted top IT service in the National Student Survey, and that's something for us to be really pleased about. And outside of the university, I'm involved with USISA, the sort of professional body for support services people in higher education.
All right. Thank you so much, Iain, and thank you, Sonja. I think it's quite fair to say that there's been a growing recognition of the importance to modernize technology infrastructure in higher education in order to enhance efficiency and improve student experiences. So we've seen a lot in the news in the past year focused around rising customer expectations. And I have no doubts that students and employees in organizations such as universities are any difference. And while a lot of universities seem to understand and recognize these challenges, what we see is there's still quite a lot that are relying on legacy technology systems. So, of course, there's a varying level of IT maturity and adoption, but often this is more impacted by things such as budget constraints, complex procurement processes, and a conservative approach to change. So it's actually a well-known fact that legacy system has a tendency to be deeply ingrained in university operations, especially in areas like administration, student information systems, and facilities management. But things are changing. So today, universities across the UK are actively investing in updating their IT systems and adopting more agile and user-friendly software platforms. So University of Aberdeen and Brunel University London are demonstrating the impact this can have for both employees and for students. So they are here today to speak to us about the journey, which includes implementation of Freshworks ITSM solution Fresh Service. So what we'll do is that we'll dive into the details around the implementation first and the results that you've achieved. So before we do that, I want to start with a more high-level question. So in your institution, what are the top priorities for your IT service? Iain, maybe you can go first.
Sure, I'm happy to go first, Fred. At the moment, we're really focused on customer experience and retention. Across the higher education sector, we are seeing a downtick in student numbers, particularly international students. So retention becomes important to us even more so, and the overall customer experience, it feeds directly into that. For our IT service, our priority has been improved IT service management, so that ability to integrate change and problem as well as incident management has been really, really key. I think with my USISA hat on, I'm able to talk to a lot of other colleagues in the sector, and it's been recognised, I think, that IT departments, because of using call handling software and ITSM tools, are often quite ahead of the curve in terms of handling queries, and other parts of professional services are looking at us to take a lead and to bring them into our ticketing tools. And that's something that we are doing here at Aberdeen University. And I know other universities have indeed brought other teams in, either to use their ITSM tool or to use something very similar. So that ability to improve call handling efficiency, not just for IT, but right across the university teams, is really quite key. And again, it really feeds back into the retention and the student experience overall. And mustn't forget, all of our staff, they really need our IT service to support them in their teaching and learning. So our priority is customer experience, supporting our staff, supporting our students, and I think really maximising efficiency across the university teams to provide one unified front.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Iain. Maybe Sonja, you can share the same insights from Brunel.
Absolutely. So I think Brunel really echoes a lot of the things that Iain has said around challenges. The whole sector is facing these same similar challenges around student expectations and student experience and recruitment and retention of students. For those that aren't in the higher education sector, I think it's sort of worth kind of noting that we effectively lose and gain about a third of our customer base within a 2-week period every year. So we have massive seasonal peaks and troughs and massive fluctuation in ticket volume. So being able to upscale and downscale very, very quickly is really, really important for us. And that's where really automation and avoidable demand, trend analysis is incredibly important for us. Student satisfaction and student experience is really important for all universities across the sector. And we kind of compete with each other in terms of looking at that student experience as well. And, effectively, we've got a very, very short period of time to make a good first impression. So we want those touch points for the students to be a positive and a good experience when they first contact us. So we identified really what we call the 4 Ps of customer experience. We talked to students about what they wanted, what good looked like, and what poor service looked like, and how we could avoid those. And we identified 4 main areas. The first one is painless. So universities are notoriously good at bureaucratic and complex business processes, and we want to really simplify it for our students. Many of our students, not all of our students, but many of our students are 18 to 19-year-olds. It's the first time that they've left home, and actually we want to make that transition period as easy for them as possible. The second P is punctual. So there's an expectation now really of responsiveness being minutes and not hours. So, whereas we might think actually responding to something in 4 hours is quite good, we're finding that a lot of our students, will find even 10 minutes to be an excessive wait. So this shifting change in what is perceived as being a responsive and quick response time, very important for us. The second one is point of need. So it's very confusing to students when they arrive. Everything is changing. They're studying. They've often moved. They are often living on their own for the first time, and universities are notoriously complex as well. So that signposting, getting help at the point that you need it, is really, really important. We don't want a barrier for students to actually find even asking for the help to be difficult. So for us, it was really important to have an omni-channel solution that allowed our customers to choose the way that they wanted to contact us, rather than us dictating actually we prefer it to be portal or prefer it to be email. And finally, this is something that all of our students talk about, not only for IT services, but in general, is to feel like a person. So for something to be personalised for them. universities will often refer to students by their student number, for example, and they don't want to feel like a number, they want to feel like a person. So we were really looking for a system as well that would help us deal with a really large number of customers in a really small period of time, but allow us to interact with them individually, to understand their student journey and their history, and be able to understand their individual set of circumstances.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sonia. And I love how focused you are on the both student and employee experience, and you've set everything up to really be centered around that. So that's great to hear. I would like to shift some focus on the specific challenges that you faced sort of before you implemented Fresh Service. So Sonia, going back to you, maybe you can share some insight in terms of what it looked like at Brunel before you implemented Fresh Service to address the challenge you were having.
Of course. So I think the challenges that Brunel were facing weren't unique. I think lots of us that have worked in IT, the story would resonate, but we had a lot of outdated legacy IT systems, lots of different systems. Each department had kind of grown organically their own solutions that worked perhaps very well for that department or that function, but added to that confusion, that signposting confusion from students, because actually the way they interacted as the university, they didn't see us as, college IT or faculty IT and central IT. They saw it as one solution. So we had a lot of legacy systems that didn't really work. We had also a lot of systems that needed upgrading. We had customized them over decades in some cases to the point that we couldn't upgrade them. And so we really needed to modernize the platform. We were looking at a cloud solution, but we were also very clear as well that we wanted something that was easy to use, both from a customer and an agent point of view, that worked natively out of the box. And we were much more focused on configuration than customization. We didn't want to embark on a lengthy and expensive implementation project. We also wanted to improve things operationally. So all universities are facing, I think, financially challenging times, and we need to look at our efficiency and our streamlining. So we've talked about shift left for a long time in IT, in the industry, but for us that was a real opportunity. We wanted to dedicate more of our IT resource in transformation and digital transformation and project delivery, and so that meant that we wanted to improve our business processes, but we also wanted to automate our business processes, and if possible use orchestration platforms to completely remove human beings into those repetitive processes and automate our runbook.
Great. Thank you so much, Sonia. I think you're not the only one that has this. We have conversations with universities, and these challenges are repeated. What I think is different is that you're a bit further down your journey. So you've recognized these a few years ago, and then obviously started taking action to addressing these ones. But what you're talking about in terms of the legacy system, looking for something that's modern, intuitive, easy to set up, and that is also not costing too much. It is difficult, but it's great to hear about the success you've had in so far. So, Iain, I'm really interested to hear more about the story for University of Aberdeen. Maybe you can share a bit more around how it's been for you and the team.
Of course, Fred. I mean, really similar to the experiences that Sonja has just described. Legacy tools, licensing and scalability issues with the ITSM software that we were using. Our tool was fine in its day, but its day was 2009. So when we replaced it in 2019, it was well beyond its usable best. And one of the ridiculous things that we had was having to manually append a customer's update onto a ticket. It just seems crazy that we even did that. We literally saved an entire person year of effort in our first year when we moved to Fresh Service, just because calls got updated automatically. It's insane. Reporting was terrible for us also, so we really didn't have a clue about what was actually happening. And we could talk about trend analysis, but we couldn't actually put that into any kind of action. Whereas now I can walk into a meeting, our director could ask me, how are tickets looking in this area? I can go quiet for 2 minutes and then come back in real time with a report that shows what's actually happening at this moment in time. So that is incredible. Our old reporting involved overnight exporting of data, somebody manipulating it. It was just unwieldy at very best. And it was holding back our ITSM maturity also. We had a change management process that ran on SharePoint. We didn't have any problem management anywhere. So for us, we wanted to start in with a ticketing tool, but we also wanted quite quickly to bring on incident and problem handling and really good analytics into the tool that we chose. So yeah, the legacy stuff that we talked about with Sonja absolutely resonates with us. And we should mention that we also have historically always had other tenants in our ITSM tool. In our case, at the time we went to Freshservice, the finance and e-learning team were part of our makeup. And that's important for something we'll probably touch on a bit later on, Fred. Yeah, but like Sonja said, for something we wanted was modern, fresh, exciting, extendable, configurable, and something that gave a bit of control and power to us as IT service agents so we could make our lives better and easier.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Iain. And yes, we'll come to the other sort of departments that are being touched upon with service management and not just IT in a bit later in the conversation. But it seems that the first step is to understand the challenges you have, recognizing them, and then deciding what is it that we want in a platform that we can use to solve our problems. So obviously you embarked on a journey to look at the market and understand what is out there to help us address these challenges and achieve the business outcomes that we've set out to achieve. So maybe you can walk us through a bit, Sonja, how exactly you go about the decision to partner up with Freshservice.
Yes, so we had recently had a failed implementation of an IT service management system. So we knew that we needed to replace this legacy system. And, you know, it's, again, not an unusual story. When I joined the organisation, we had just gone live with the system that didn't really work for us. And when we looked back historically, we thought, well, actually, we think we picked the wrong platform for our needs. And so when we embarked on finding a new platform, a new solution for us, it was really important to make sure that we got it right and that we were finding something that really met our needs. We are a public sector organisation, and so we also have to make sure that we have a fair process and that we go through due diligence as well. But we also wanted to implement a solution in a very tight timescale as well. So to avoid kind of having to extend contracts effectively of our existing platforms, we set ourselves a really ambitious implementation of 12 weeks, including procurement. So we went to frameworks. So we looked at our G-Cloud framework, and we had a look at platforms on there. We were really mindful about return on investment, and that wasn't just the initial cost of the software as well, but the total cost of ownership. So we were very clear that we were looking for something that was black box, that was heavily on rails, that we wouldn't need a sort of 7-8 man development team to support, 7-8 people to support in a development team. So we were looking at that total cost of ownership, not just the initial software costs as well. And we shortlisted it down to 3 potential solutions. And because we wanted to make sure that we really had the right product as well, we actually went with trials for all 3. So we had about a 3-week trial of 3 platforms. And in the end, Freshservice for us really ticked all of the boxes. As I said, it had truly an omni-channel solution, and that was really important for us. It felt as though it had been designed to be customer-centric. Whereas some of the other platforms felt that they were designed more for the back office infrastructure side of things, and maybe that user interface wasn't as clean and as modern as Freshservice. Some of the feedback that we got from the agencies, you just knew how to use it, straight away. Yes, we did little training sessions and everything, but actually it was just intuitive and it was a pleasure to use. And that was really important for us. But we were also really interested as well in the roadmap and the company and how quickly actually new features were being developed in the product, and we really felt that actually it would keep pace with our maturity as well.
Perfect, Sonia. I think that's quite a common approach, and I like how you also looked at the future, not just what meets your needs today, but also make a decision that's future proofing your IT service management. Iain, maybe you can describe the same thing for University of Aberdeen and how you went about your decision.
Yeah, I mean, incredibly similar to Brunel's journey. We went through procurement also. We narrowed it down to a few products, some of which we were already familiar with through knowing our other colleagues and working with them and asking their advice. Fresh Service just genuinely stood out. The people that came and talked to us about the product sold us and were genuine, and fortunately they weren't pulling the wool over our eyes, because they continued to be genuine friends and partners and colleagues in the years and months after we went live. I think it's fair to say that there was just something fresh about Fresh Service. It just looked different. It looked modern. It was clean, as Sonja said. It's very easy for people to pick up and get going with. Amazing timing for us also, with Fresh Service being an entirely cloud-based product. Within 10 months of us launching with it, of course, we were faced with a global pandemic, so we were able to very quickly just run off home and work from there really seamlessly. That was an unexpected benefit, of course, although we had always planned to get away from local installation and having to have people staying at night to install and update the software. So for us, it was the modernity of the product, the browser agnosticity, the cloud hostedness, the fact that new features were coming on stream, and the only downside we found to that is sometimes it's quite hard to keep up with all the features that are available. We also worked with a guy called Martin McKenna. Hi, Martin, who helped us to build up a mind map. And that was a really cool way to go about identifying what we needed from a tool, because we could have priority ones here and break them out into priority twos and priority threes and grow the mind map or shrink it. It really helped us to focus on the things that we needed. And that's something, if you are looking for a tool that we could share with you at some point, we've got a nice, different way. I'm wading through procurement for a different product just now, and my goodness, it's tedious when you have to wade through thousands and thousands of pages. Mindmap cut a lot of that down. But really for us, modernity is the commitment from the Freshworks colleagues, and we've never looked back, I'm happy to say.
Great to hear, and thanks for sharing the idea about the mind mapping. I think there's a lot of people that can use that tactic. So I also really interesting talking about the people and how the Freshworks team has really partnered with you to making sure that you're a happy customer and that everything works well. So this brings me to the next point. And when organizations, not just higher education, but anyone, when you buy software, one of the most critical aspects, obviously, the implementation of it. And it's really important and to get up and running both quickly, but also successfully. So maybe when it comes to actually implementing Fresh Service, can you elaborate a bit on how that implementation went, Sonja?
Yeah, so I think I was relatively new to the organisation when we were implementing Fresh Service, and I came into the organisation and said, we're going to implement this in 8 weeks from the point of signing the contract. And I think it's probably fair to say that Brunel had never experienced implementing a sort of technology platform in such a short period of time. So I think once, some people have sort of adjusted their thinking that I'd completely lost my mind and it wasn't going to be delivered. And in fact, I do like to joke with my project manager because he went massively over and it took 9 weeks instead of 8 weeks. So I like to say to him, it took 15% longer because it took 9 weeks. But in all seriousness, it was an incredibly short implementation. And actually, the majority of that time was us thinking about our business processes. It included training. So the actual technical implementation, I think, is probably fair to say it really didn't take more than 2 days. And if you compared that to some of our previous projects where the majority of the implementation was the integration, was the authentication, that very kind of back-end technology platform, even for SaaS solutions, Fresh just worked out of the box. And that allowed us to spend our time thinking about how we wanted to work and thinking about our change processes as well. We didn't really hit any technical problems at all. And it gave us time to engage with our stakeholders across the departments, we were able to show them what the system could do and how we wanted to use it. And we very much took a continuous improvement approach. So we talked about it being minimum viable product because of it being such a short implementation, and that we would have monthly releases. And I think there was a degree of of disbelief around that as well, because often projects will talk about MVP and continuous delivery, and you go live and everyone's so exhausted that doesn't happen. But that absolutely has happened at Brunel. We absolutely do have monthly releases. The December one tends to be a bit quiet, but the rest of them, we have fairly large and rapid rollouts. And the actual change management part itself was incredibly, the business change management was incredibly smooth. And in fact, actually, I very vividly remember somebody from the network team stopping me in the corridor and telling me how much he liked the new system. And this is a team that's notoriously, change adverse. They've been using the same tools and working in the same way for a really, really long time. And it was fantastic because we suddenly had a culture shift as well. Fresh enabled a culture shift where suddenly actually we were able to start thinking about continuously improving our processes, trying things. If they didn't work, we could change them because it hadn't cost us, thousands of pounds in development costs. So taking an experimental approach as well. And yeah, it was incredibly smooth. The training, we did do training for all of the staff. So we trained about 100 staff, but a lot of that was process focused because, as I said, the system is very intuitive in terms of using it. So it allowed us to talk about how we wanted to serve customers and best practice, and things like how we respond and our tone of voice, as well as how to use the system.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sonja. I'm very interested to hear how it went for you, Iain, and the University of Aberdeen.
I'm somewhat cheesed to hear that Brunel managed to go from planning to implementation in 8 weeks. I thought we did pretty well doing it in about 10 or 11 weeks. So go Brunel, making us look bad for doing it in 12 weeks. One of the longest pieces of preparation for me was looking at the categorization that we had for the tickets that we had in the old tool and trying to make some kind of sense out of that. That took goodness knows how many screen hours sifting through and trying to work out what the services were and how we categorise things. The actual implementation of Fresh Service was way faster than all of that. The only things that took a wee bit of fiddling were probably connecting to AD and getting the right fields and getting our shibboleth sign-in working. Fundamentally, the product out of the box just kind of did what we wanted. We were lucky that we had a guy called Bharat who worked with us very closely and indeed came over to Aberdeen and sat with us for the last few days and held our hands virtually, or not physically, but we held our hands metaphorically, I suppose, to ensure that we started. We picked a go-live date and we started going live on that date. There was no drama. It just worked and did what we wanted it to do right from the very start. I'll echo what Sonja said. Training, super simple. We did UAT training with loads of people just to get a feel for how the tool would work. That helped us to fine-tune the setup. Training thereafter, many people just didn't bother. They just said, oh, it's a web page. I can do this, this, and this. Yeah, got it. I've logged a ticket and I've moved on. And that has genuinely been the case since 2019 when we launched. So that's been really good. Minimum viable product that Sonja mentioned, we went live with call handling, basically. And then we plugged in problem, we plugged in change management. We developed a bit more service catalog. We developed the solutions. So you can certainly get going quickly and add without any sort of penalty. So yeah, really quick, simple transformation. The only thing I would tell younger Iain is, well, okay, maybe eat more healthily and do more exercise, but also probably employ someone who's got the bandwidth to configure Fresh Service. Although you don't need a team of 7 or 8 people, you do need 1 or 2 people to really make sure you're getting the best out of the tool, to keep up with the updates, to keep up with the new features, etc. I still kick myself that we didn't put that in place, and it probably has held us back a little bit in terms of taking advantage of what the tool can do for us. But implementation, a doddle, as we would say in Scotland.
Yes, okay. Thanks for teaching me some Scottish expressions, Ian. I think both 9 weeks and 10 weeks are pretty impressive, and I bet you're pretty happy with your team for delivering results that quickly. And but moving on to the next thing. So you've had a smooth rollout, even if it ran over 15%, Sonja. It seems to be been positive, but the most important thing is obviously the results that follow this. So you had set out quite clearly the result that you wanted to achieve. So, Ian, maybe you can share a bit more around the impact that you had specifically around response time and dealing with issues during that busy onboarding period that you both highlighted at the start of the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Fred. I mean, response times, absolutely. We could actually see the response times now and really deal with them. But the thing I found most powerful about the tool was the impact it had on the working lives of the agents, the staff using the tool. So the people on my service desk, for example, there's so many micro efficiencies that they can bring in to their daily working lives. And I think that ability for a person to take a bit of control of their working environment is really amazing. It really helps them to feel in control of their working life. So what am I talking about here? When tickets are coming in, our agents can see patterns. They can create workflows that deal with those patterns of tickets and push them off to the right team or automatically reply. They can create workflows that do other things. They can create scenario automations that can quickly respond at first touch to literally hundreds of tickets. Like Sonja was saying, we get 3,000 people coming in for a couple of weeks, twice a year or once a year. We know what they're going to ask. We know how to respond. If we can quickly spin up some kind of automations or scenarios that respond to them en masse, that's amazing. And it really made our agents, I think, happier. They can do things with the tool that don't require a developer. So that was really cool for us. That overall ability to streamline what we're doing and to bring workflows in that make lives easier for people, that was amazing. Just didn't really expect that until we'd got used to using the tool. I think the other sort of further back things are really good CSAT. We can see what customers are thinking of our service. We get about a 20%, 23% response rate to all the tickets that we go out in terms of feedback. And that's really good and cool. And I think for me as the manager, the analytics, the ability to report to my own team, to other teams, to managers, to peers across the country, that's been quite a phenomenal game changer for us. It really helps us to focus our activity where it's needed.
That's great, Ian. Thank you. I'll remember that word, cool. I think it's a good combination of good and cool. Sonja, was it similar for you? Maybe you can share a bit about the results that you've seen.
Absolutely. So I talked earlier about that sort of significant peak in in student contact volume at particular times of the year, and that was really, really important for us because we knew that we had quite a poor response rate just during that period, but that first impression wasn't as good as it needed to be, and it could take us really quite a long time to respond to students, and we could have a little bit of a backlog during that sort of arrival period. And Fresh Service allowed us to really respond much more quickly because we were automating things. The agents weren't getting tied down with using the tools and how to reply. A lot of that kind of heavy lifting was taken from the system. Taken up by the system. We could then expand on that. So initially, we actually saw our demand fall fairly significantly. So we were identifying avoidable demand. We were identifying repeat tickets. So if you don't, respond, students tend to follow up sometimes within an hour. I've not heard back from you. So we were able to avoid that sort of chase contact, but also we were identifying trends. So we started to identify not technical issues, but maybe usability issues, where students were having a common confusion about maybe how to use things like MFA, for example, and there were things that we could do around our comms, our pre-arrival comms to reduce that demand. We then saw our demand go up, and we thought, well, this isn't good because this isn't what we wanted. But what we actually suddenly realised is because we had this omni-channel solution where it was delivered at the point of need, we'd actually removed some of these contact barriers. So students were actually contacting us much more quickly because they knew that actually they were getting a responsive solution. So this was a good thing. We were actually quite happy that what we had done is remove a barrier for customer satisfaction, and actually was making it really easy for people to see. But what we'd also discovered as well is that teams that had used it for maybe a more narrow use case, just really kind of student contact or staff contact for ticketing, have started to build in some of their other processes. So universities run on shared mailboxes. I'm sure Aberdeen isn't any different. And we discovered that actually teams may have only connected one mailbox to Fresh Service, and they had 10 or 15 other mailboxes, and suddenly they were actually diverting a lot of their other work through Fresh Service because it enabled them to work much more efficiently. And that's normally something that we have to kind of make happen through change management processes, business change processes, is trying to get people to onboard their processes and have a single pane of glass, if you like. But actually that happened organically because the teams were really keen on using it. And that actually got expanded outside of IT, which I think we're talking about a little bit later. I think it's probably fair to say as well that the morale in the service desk wasn't perhaps as good as it could be. Service desk is really quite a hard job sometimes. You're only talking to customers when they're frustrated with IT not working, which we all know when the technology doesn't work makes your blood pressure go through the roof. And they're often dealing with repetitive inquiries, and it can feel like quite a junior role. And when Fresh Service came in, because it actually freed up a lot of that repetitive work, they genuinely could start to take some more complex administration activities off the second and third line teams. That made the second and third line teams happy. But also we've talked about how easy Fresh Service is to administer, and you can't really break it. And what we were actually able to do is to start to take a citizen development approach as well. So the teams were able to, Iain's already talked about this, but they were able to create maybe simple workflows or automate some of their own processes as well. And that really kind of was really motivating actually for the teams, because they really felt empowered, that they weren't just sort of pointing out issues or opportunities for improvement and it going onto a backlog somewhere, that actually they were able to start to really utilize the features in the tool to improve their own business processes as well. So it had a significant impact on customer satisfaction and staff morale.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for sharing the impact and the results that you've achieved here. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about if we had the time to do that. So what I suggest we do is maybe we start looking a bit forward, and we mentioned how we are creating a unified experience and workers. It's something we've seen very commonly across higher education, that you want to create a unified service management experience. So what I would like to hear is more about your plans for the future. Are you planning to implement any additional solutions or expand Fresh Service across the university?
Yes,
Sonja, I think we'll go to you first here.
Iain and I are both being very polite.
I know you've just got here, so we both exactly. But we'll go to you next, Iain. I promise. But Sonja, let's go to you first.
Yeah, so I think if I'm completely honest, our plans went a little bit kind of sideways. So we had it very much was our IT service management tool, and our plan was very much around kind of maturity of our service management processes, and then moving on to IT operations management. So we were starting with incident and service requests, ticketing elements of it, and then the plan was to move to problem and to change into IT operations management. And what actually ended up happening is that my team ended up talking to other teams in the university that provide student support functions, and they were really singing the praises of Fresh Service, and that rarely happens. Normally as leaders, we're kind of convincing people that actually the change might be painful now, but it'll be good in the long term. And this really is unique, I think, in that it just landed very, very well with the agents straight away. The customers, they may be, the students might not have actually seen, experienced service before Fresh Service because they were relatively new. But our own internal staff were really, really proud of it, and they were showing it off to everybody. And so our plans did get a little bit hijacked because what we've actually ended up doing is expanding Fresh Service to non-IT functions. So rather than this maturing of the IT service management platform, we've really moved into enterprise service management. So in December, we had a fairly large rollout to non-IT functions. So we've started to use workspaces. We're also utilising business agents as well. So we now have our student centre and student support, student finance, student wellbeing, and we also have privacy and health and safety on board as well, and campus services. Sorry, I don't know how I could forget campus services and estates. So these are teams that are very focused on providing support to staff and to students, and it's been really, really beneficial from a student experience point of view, because we've talked about it being omni-channel and having this single pane of glass, but genuinely when they go into the portal or the Teams virtual assistant that we've rolled out really easily and very successfully, they actually can contact multiple service providers. They're not even necessarily massively aware that we have a different department providing IT to campus services. It merely asks them what sort of area that they need support with. They've got a shared knowledge base, they've got shared service requests and forms. And so actually we've had a fairly significant rollout, more than doubling the number of agents that we've got on the platform.
Perfect. It's great to hear that it's been able to adopt across campus and across the university, Sonja, and onboarding a number of different departments. So, Iain, we'll go to you next. Thank you for your patience there. Maybe you can share how yourself and University of Aberdeen is looking at expanding the use of Fresh Service across the university.
Of course, Fred. And our story is very similar to that Sonja's just described at Brunel. We got ourselves into Fresh Service. I've likened it to moving house. We never quite fully unpacked all the boxes and finished setting up the study before we built a conservatory and brought the library team on board and brought museums and special collections teams on board. So we started with about 130 agents. We've now got 360. So we're 2.5 times, and we're planning now to bring more teams. And like Sonja described, other parts of the university were looking over our shoulder thinking, these IT people seem to know what they're doing. We want to be part of this as well. So I'm just about to embark on discussions with HR and registry, so two really fundamental, huge parts of the university. What non-grey hair I've got left will be grey and white by the end of the year, undoubtedly, but it's a really great challenge ahead. Sonja said, we want to go into the workspaces so that we can separate out the functional areas and give them a bit more autonomy and let them do their thing, and also so I don't have to manage and coordinate everybody. We're definitely looking to bring more teams in. Only regret there is we would like to spend more time really unpacking the product and really doing a good review of how we're using the product to get the very best out of it. We're not using orchestration just now. We hit a security bump there, so we stopped with that momentarily. But we know there's more we could do with the Fresh Service product. Should mention that on the side we use the Fresh Chat product to engage in live chat with our student population primarily, but our staff increasingly use live chat to engage with us, and that's amazing. It touches on that point Sonja made, that people want answers quick, snappy, there and then, and that's really working for us, and that's driving up year on year or month on month the amount of traffic that goes through that channel. So really for us it's about pulling other teams in the university together, providing that unified front and looking for efficiencies across the board. So exciting times ahead for us, and we'll see if I'm saying that in a few months' time. I think
Well, I hope you will, Ian. So there is, first of all, thank you for sharing all of this. There's one thing that I think is on everyone's mind at the moment that we haven't yet covered that we will do before we sort of say thanks to everyone and then we move on. But that is around AI. So Freshworks actually had and utilized AI technology since around 2017. But the development have really accelerated since the Gen AI capabilities become available at the end of 2022. We worked a lot on this over the past sort of year or so. So the approach that we're taking is sort of AI towards three different types of uses of Freshservice. So the first one is around the employees and the students. So using chatbots and intelligent solution to serve your students and employees 24/7 with immediate responses. So meeting them where they want in the channel of the preference and being able to provide answers instantly. That's the first part. The second one is around the agent experience. And what we have here is our Copilot licenses. So it works to enhance agents and not replacing them, to enhancing their productivity and remove mundane tasks, to summarize articles and suggest next steps and just helping them to handle these repetitive tasks. And then the third one is for sort of business and organizational leaders, where we can have intelligent suggestions and actions on the portal and helping people to make better, smarter, and faster decisions. So, Ian, we'll let you go first here. I'm really interested to hear about your experience with such capabilities, and if you haven't yet, the potential benefit of using them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we've used Freddie Thank You since the get-go, and Freddie Thank You recognises when the customer has said, hey, thank you, you fixed my problem, and it keeps the ticket closed. We used to spend hours looking at open tickets that were actually just someone saying, thanks, it's all good. So that saves us a lot of time. The reality for us, as I said, we've been not quite unpacking the full capability of Freshservice, so we have not yet taken full advantage of the artificial intelligence possibility beyond Freddie's AI. We've got a little bit of guided roboting in our chat product, which we're upgrading next month in March, so we're excited to see what additional AI comes out of that. I personally lost a lot of time last year through health problems, so I'm a good 50 days behind what roadmap we have. But one of the things that we are doing just now, hopefully sensibly, is focusing on our knowledge base and our solution. We've got someone there now managing our solutions. And our hope there is that by tidying up and cleaning and making more thorough our solutions, we've got a knowledge base that generative AI can read and deliver answers from. So we're quite excited about that potential. In the short term, just having a better knowledge base is a blooming good thing anyway. So for us, I feel we're behind the curve on AI. Kind of nags me a bit that we haven't done as much, but I know there's capability within Freshservice and that we've got the support from the Freshworks team to help us understand what we can do next. And that's on our roadmap, is to sit with our customer success team and identify the priorities that we should be doing to get the best from the product for the couple of years ahead.
Great, thank you so much, Ian. Sonja, how about for you and the Brunel team?
Yeah, so I think Aberdeen are slightly ahead of us in some things. So chat is something that we haven't rolled out, and we're really interested in that, and that's kind of one of our future developments that we've just talked about. So the area of AI I think that we have made most use of is around the Copilot. So the trending is useful, but we're just really, I think, finding our feet with that a little bit. But the Copilot side of things is very interesting. So we talked about the sort of four P's of good customer services, but we also have 4 principles as well around improving our own service delivery and our own efficiency. So the first one is eliminate. How do we identify avoidable demand? And that kind of trend analysis that doesn't require structured reports to be written is actually going to be really, really key and crucial to that. The AI is potentially asking questions and spotting trends that we wouldn't necessarily have asked in a sort of data analytics. So that's really important for us. But the second one is around navigate. So as we've talked about, that actually, because we do get these massive peaks, in demand during really short periods of time, we also increase our staff as well. And it means that actually sometimes we have staff that are relatively new to the job, or we recruit them in from other areas. So, maybe it's not their job that they do all year round. And so actually they also have a huge amount of information. So that generative replies, that knowledge base, that signposting is really, really important. So for us, the knowledge base, we've identified that we really do need to beef up the knowledge base in the same way as Aberdeen. But it isn't just customer facing, it's also agent facing as well. So there may be instructions that are actually aimed at the agents rather than at the customer, something that they can't do themselves, but the agent needs to do for them. And actually generating those responses are really, really, really helpful as well. The other two around automation and facilitation as well. So that's really looking at orchestration and things like that. Certainly, I think a couple of things that have hit really well, if you like, is around the response summary, so the ticket summary. So certainly in the student areas, a little bit different from IT in terms of the type of inquiries that they get. In IT, we tend to get sort of short ticket and resolution, how do I do this? Oh, I fixed it for you, and it's done. On the student inquiry side of things, they can be more case-like. So there can be often quite a lot of backwards and forwards, clarification, different questions, really long conversations. And so actually just at the click of a button, Freshservice Freddy will generate a summary of a fairly complicated case with maybe lots of updates, lots of different inputs from different members of staff. And actually, if you've got a student standing in front of you at the click of a button, you can kind of get a very, very quick, within seconds, summary of what's going on. And that ties back down to our making students feel like they're an individual, customer to us, because they are, and that they're getting a personal service. We're not making them explain all of that history again. So that's really, really important for us. Obviously, we can generate knowledge-based articles using Freddy AI. That is more of interest, I think, to the IT function, because the inquiries that we are dealing with tend to be more general. It's been, if I'm honest, less useful maybe for some of the student areas, because that's much more about Brunel's processes, and so it hasn't maybe generated the right answers. And I think that's interesting, because what we're discovering is that a common platform is actually meeting the needs of quite disparate user bases with very, very different business processes. So that's good news for us.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sonja, for walking us through your view on AI and how that can help you. So I think we've come to the end of today's discussion. So first of all, thank you both so much for sharing your insights. It's been great to hear about your entire journey, from starting off by recognizing and identifying the challenges you were having, outlining and scoping out the results you wanted to achieve, hearing about your evaluation process of which providers can be there, and how you've arrived at Freshservice was the right choice for you, and then further on going into the implementation phase, how that's been for you, and then ultimately the results that you have achieved and seen already, and then the future plans that you have. So it's been great to hear about these things, and I hope the audience have enjoyed it as much as I did. So with that, thank you, Sonja, from Brunel University, London, and thank you, Iain, from University of Aberdeen, for sharing the experiences with us.
Thanks for having us. You're very welcome.
Perfect. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us and enlightening this discussion. So if you are interested in learning more, you can head over to freshworks.com. You can reach out to myself or any of your Freshworks representatives. Thank you.